Are you searching for answers? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.
Hello and welcome to Found by Shalom World. I'm your host from Ireland, Katie Ascough. On this show, I talk to guests about their journey into the Catholic faith and how that inspires the work they're doing now. Like today, some of our guests share stories with great trial and tribulation, but God always has the final word. Today we're speaking with Rebecca Gosper, Managing Director of Life Choice Australia. Rebecca's role involves a lot, including regularly addressing rallies and conferences across her country. Several years ago, Rebecca's mother was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Through this incredibly challenging experience, Rebecca has learned to rely on God and to put Him first in her life. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Rebecca, and welcome to Found. Rebecca, it's so great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, just a massive congratulations on your recent wedding, and I believe the good news that you're expecting.
I am, yeah. My husband and I are so excited to be expecting a new little one in October this year.
Wow, congratulations. Are you feeling sick at all, or has that phase passed yet for you?
Thankfully, that phase is mostly past. So now getting to enjoy the really exciting part of pregnancy, seeing our baby on the ultrasound scans and sharing the news with friends and family. So we couldn't be more excited.
Such an exciting time. So we have a lot to talk about today, Rebecca, not just your recent wedding and your new baby, but also all the great work that you're doing. You're one of the most vocal pro-life activists in Australia, and we're going to talk a lot about that in just a moment. But I also want to talk about your journey of faith. I know it has something to do with your mother becoming very ill. You really had to trust in God and rely on Him during that time. So just going to invite you to go into that. Maybe you can start with your background to your faith, leading up to that moment when you really made it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a Catholic home. I had the most incredible parents, most incredible Catholic parents and siblings as well. So my faith was always a big part of my life. But I suppose because I grew up in that Catholic home, it was more culturally ingrained into me. So I believed it, but I never actually took it on as being my own. It was just expected. It was part of family life. It's just what we did. And then, as you mentioned, I found out when I was 17, I think maybe 16 to 17, my mum was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which, for anyone who isn't aware, it's a form of cancer that is in the lymphatic system. So it spreads all around your body. And because of that, it's not really treatable. It is considered a terminal illness. And I remember when my mum sat me down and told me, it was on a school night. And it just came completely out of nowhere. Like, my mom is like one of the most energetic people you've ever met in your life. She's involved in everything, like church, school, work. Like, she's one of those people that is just so active, so involved. And then for this diagnosis to come out of nowhere really shook my family. And I think especially me at the age that I was, like being 17 years old, I think it was really a pivotal moment in my life. Yeah, so it was really hard, but that was the moment when my faith started to be challenged and I realized that I needed to take it on as my own.
And what happened from there? I mean, I know there was a moment in particular for you when I think it was the morning after you found out this horrible news, you got to school really early and you ended up going to the chapel to pray. What happened in that chapel?
Yeah, so my school growing up had the most beautiful chapel and it was open all day, every day, which was just so incredible, such a blessing. So I remember the morning after I found out, I left for school really early because I just couldn't really deal with it. I couldn't process what was going on. I like struggled to even look at my mom. Like I was just so heartbroken for her and for our family. So I went to school really early, got to the chapel. I was the only one there. I think it was like 7 o'clock in the morning or something. It was really early. I went into the chapel. I went right up to the front, and on one side there is a statue of St. Joseph, and on the other side, a statue of Our Lady. And I went and sat right in front of the statue of Our Lady and just cried. Absolutely bawled my eyes out. Like it was like really ugly crying. And I was just in a moment of despair. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to process this. And it felt like hours that I was there, just like crying out all of my emotions, all of my feelings about this. I kind of finished up my little cry, and I remember looking up at the statue of Our Lady and just almost feeling like a hug, like that sense of just warmth and comfort coming from her in a way that I'd never, ever felt before. And I haven't felt that exact feeling since then either. But it was as though she was consoling me, as though she was saying, I am your mother. I will be here for you no matter what. So that was a really pivotal moment for me.
And how did that change your relationship with God going forward? Did you start going to daily mass all of a sudden, or was it maybe a slow progression into making your faith your own?
I think it was quite a quick process for me. I think once I realized that I really had to take ownership over this, like I had to do something. My faith wasn't just going to come out of nowhere to me. God wasn't just going to speak to me out of nowhere. I had to do something as well. That was when I started taking it seriously. So as much as I could, I was going to daily mass. I'm not a perfect human person, so it didn't happen every day by any means. But that was the aim. I was taking time to actually sit with God in conversation, in prayer, in a way that I hadn't previously. I made it a priority. I made sure that I was receiving formation. So I was going out of my way to learn about my faith, learn about the catechism. So yeah, it was really a turning point for me to really make my faith my own and understand my faith in a whole new light.
And what then happened with your mother? Did she progress with this illness? Did things get better? Did they get worse? What's happened since then?
Yeah, so it's a constantly evolving situation, but the doctors are somewhat stunned at what is going on with her. So we definitely can't say for sure that she's cured, because that's not where she's at. However, the doctors expected things to go downhill much more quickly than they have. So they don't know why this has happened. I think we as Catholics, as Christians, can see that there is something bigger going on here, and that, someone is interceding for my mum. But she is doing amazing. So she is now back involved more than ever at our church, in the schools, doing whatever she can. Her energy is back, which is incredible. She went to World Youth Day in Poland. She took a youth group over there.
Wow.
Like, she is just so much energy, so much life in her. So we couldn't be more grateful for, what God has done for my mom. Like, she's doing really, really good in a way that we didn't expect her to be doing at this point.
Well, praise God. Sounds like a bit of a miracle. And please God, she continues to get better and to feel well. And how has that impacted your family? Because I feel like when a crisis hits a family, it can either make or break them. Have you found it to be, I'm sure it's been difficult. I'm sure there's been challenges, but have you found it in any way to be a unifying experience for your family? How have you guys come out the other side of it?
Yeah, I agree. These sort of situations really make or break a family. And I think, praise God, it has made my family. I think we are stronger. I think that we value our time together more. I think especially since, our siblings have grown up and we've started going our own ways. I think that we value more than ever that time as a family unit when we are all together, especially after the events of the past year and being physically separated for months on end. So that, combined with the health of my mum and how grateful we are for how well she's doing at the moment, I think that we are stronger than ever, and we're so grateful for that.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing that so openly and vulnerably with us. And I'd love to hear more about your own personal faith. So what does that look like today? You're a fairly young person, and I just love to hear more about how do you keep your faith alive? Is it the sacraments? Is it daily prayer? Is it community? I'm sure it's all of those things combined, but have you found anything in particular to be really helpful for keeping your faith alive?
Absolutely. So as you say, I do think it is a combination of all of those, but the most important thing for me would be daily mass. And this has obviously been something that's been difficult for everyone over the past year, even just getting to Sunday masses. But where I can get to daily mass, especially if I'm making it a regular part of my routine, it makes such a big difference. You feel that immediately. Because especially if you're able to go in the morning, you're starting your day off with God, with prayer. And there's no better way that you can start off a busy day than spending half an hour of quiet time with God. So that's definitely the most important thing for me. The next thing is making time for prayer, making time for that one-on-one conversation with God, because you can't get to know somebody if you don't actually spend time with them. That's the same for our friends. It's the same for God. So those are the two most important things for me by far.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess your pro-life work is something that we've definitely got to talk about because there's so much going on there. I know you're incredibly busy. You sound a little bit like a workaholic like myself. And obviously there's certain things that you have to rein back on, but you just tend to get a lot done, which is amazing. So can you tell us what you're working on at the moment? And do you think your pro-life efforts, your pro-life work is anything like a fruit of your faith? Do you think those two things are connected? Does your faith and your action go hand in hand?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that prayer and action go together. And if you really want one to be effective, you need the other as well. So I am not effective in my work, in my pro life work, when I'm not making prayer a priority. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again in my own life when, if we're in the middle of a busy campaign, a huge abortion bill, and I'm working 18-hour days and I'm not making prayer a priority, people around me can feel that as well. And they're the ones saying, Beck, I think you need to take a moment and just like get your life in order. And praise God for those people. So I think that absolutely prayer and action go together. In terms of my pro-life work, yeah, it is crazy. It's amazing. But it's definitely a challenge. But if you're gonna trust in God and His plan for your life and for your work, then it's gonna make things a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. And can you tell us more about the exact role that you have? Because I know it's fairly impressive. You run an organization, and I think you pretty much do everything from lobbying to media work. So can you just talk a little bit more about what your role is and the various things that you're doing at the moment?
Absolutely. So I'm the managing director of Black Choice Australia. So as you say, it's kind of a bit of everything. I'm overseeing everything that's going on. So we run a network of about 500 pro-life young adults around Australia. So Australia is about the size of Europe. It's massive. So there's a lot going on. So yeah, I work day to day with the most incredible, brave pro-life students and young people, training them, working with the media, working on campaigns, legislation, lobbying. There's so much going on. It is very busy, but yeah, I have the most incredible team backing me the whole way, and they do so much of the heavy lifting in the background as well. So yeah, it's crazy, but it's amazing. I would want to do anything else.
I love it. And I hear you're working on an offensive piece of legislation. So I know in the pro-life movement, so often we're defending these or against these horrible bills and proposals that, are just stripping young children, unborn babies of the right to life. But for once, we actually get to put something forward. So can you tell us a little bit about that offensive piece of legislation that you guys are working on?
It's called the Children Born Alive Protection Bill. So essentially what this bill does, it's a federal bill, which is quite unusual for Australia. Normally abortion laws are done state by state, but this one will impact the whole country. So essentially what this bill says is that any child that is born alive as a result of an abortion must be given medical care. At the moment, it's only in 2 states in the whole of Australia that these children actually need to be provided with care. All the other babies in all the other states can and are left to die in abortion facilities, in hospitals, wherever they are born. They do not need to be given medical care, and they are simply left to die in pain and quite possibly alone, cold. It's just horrible to think about. So all this bill does is protect children once they're already born. This isn't even technically about abortion. To make sure that these children, these born children, are given their inalienable human rights and are afforded the opportunity to live a full and healthy life. So we are working on that legislation at the moment. We hope it will be officially introduced in the federal parliament in the coming months. And we hope that all of our politicians will back it. It's a common sense piece of legislation. It shouldn't be controversial at all. But it would be a wonderful first step for the pro-life movement in Australia.
That's so important. And please God that passes, because as you say, that's just common sense legislation, and you would think everyone could get on board for that. And just hearing you speak there about, even just about that one initiative that you're working on, it sounds like, and I'm aware of this myself, I've worked in the pro-life movement full time, it can be a really difficult topic to be addressing constantly and to have constantly on your mind. So how do you defend yourself? How do you prepare yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, to be dealing with these life or death situations every single day?
Yeah, it can be really hard. And yeah, as you say, when you're dealing with these life and death situations every single day, it can drain you. It can make you exhausted. It can lead to burnout. It's really important to be aware of these things, because I've gone through it way too many times, and you'd think I would have learnt my lesson. I think I slowly am. But we do have to be really aware of it as activists. So I suppose there are a few things that I do to try and keep myself centered and focused on what I'm doing. I guess for me, the biggest thing is when you are sent a photo or you hold a baby who was supposed to be aborted but is here in the world alive and healthy because of your work, because of a small part that you played in supporting his or her mother. That is the moment that makes it all worth it. Like, that is just the most incredible thing to experience. And I wish that we could see those babies every single day, but that's not how it works. But every few months, we'll get sent a photo of a baby that has been born because of a small part that we played. So those moments and reminding yourself regularly of those moments really, really helps and makes it worth it. I spoke previously about Mass and prayer. I think those are really important. And then surrounding yourself with really good people. So like, keep your friends close, keep your family close, especially when things get crazy and busy and you're working on big campaigns or legislation. It can be easy to not prioritize your family and friends. And I have been so bad at this in the past. And I think only after our last abortion bill did I finally learn my lesson. So I think making time for the people that you love is really important, and people that love you and will look out for you. So yeah, those would probably be the most important things for me. But it is hard, but it is more than worth it. It's always worth it.
And I guess just on kind of a final note, what would you say to someone watching this who, maybe they have faith and they care about the pro-life cause, but they've never gotten actively involved? I feel like you're the person that can definitely pump them up to do something about it. What would you say to them about getting involved in the pro-life movement?
We've all been there, okay? Nobody came out of the womb being a full-on pro-life activist. If you were, I probably feel a little bit sorry for your mother. So I've been there. I get it. I was not at all involved at the beginning of university. And I was the very last person who thought that she would be doing public speaking or anything like that. Like in high school, I was like, keep it away from me. So I get it. I think it is important just to do something though. So figure out, what are your talents? What are the gifts that you have been given? And how can you use that for the pro-life movement? So if you're an incredible artist, draw, create, show. We need to show the world the beauty of the unborn. If you're a great writer, then write opinion pieces for local newspapers or letters to the editor or longer form articles. If you have a legal background, offer your services to the pro-life movement. We're always needing legal help. We need it at the moment. So whatever your talents are, whatever the gifts you've been given, they can be used for so much good. So take some time, reflect on that. And if you don't know what your talents are, speak to either your spouse if you're married, or your siblings, or your best friend, and they can tell you. They know you better than anyone else. So figure out what your gifts are and then use those for good.
I love that. Everyone has something to give. And if someone in Australia is watching this and they're like, wow, Rebecca's amazing, I want to get involved with her organization, where can they find you?
So we are on all social media channels. Look up Life Choice Australia or go to lifechoice.org.au and you can reach out to us through there. So Facebook and Instagram we're super active on. Just message us through there and we would love to get in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time today. And we're wishing you all the best with your work and with your baby who's due in October. All the best, and we'll be praying for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
God bless. We just spoke with Rebecca Gosper here on Shalom World Found. Until next time, take care.